Hello, hello, hello. I'm holding in my hand a model of a flower. It is made out of paper, it's three-dimensional, and it's really fun to make. I'm going to show you how to make one of these with what you may have at home. But first, let's talk about the parts of this flower. The main parts that we need to focus on today are the petals, which we're all familiar with, the pistil, which is that part in the middle that sticks up, the stamens, and the sepals. And then we're also going to add leaves just for a little artistic flair. So let's get started. One thing that you may have at home are pieces of magazine paper or junk mail store ads that have a lot of one color on that. I'm going to use these for parts of the flower. Also, I've been holding on to papers that I've colored or I've added texture to. I added texture to this using the bag that some lemons came into, and I just put the paper on top and rubbed with a crayon to make this texture. Did it again here with this red orange color. So I have lots of papers here that I've been just making different colors and textures for a moment, such as this. This paper I colored on both sides because I knew I needed it for the flower. So let's get started. For the petal, the flower petals, we're going to fold our paper into fourths. So in half, and in half again. And then after you fold it, what I want you to do is open it, and on both sides, use a dark colored crayon or a marker to put an X right in the middle where those folds intersect, right in the middle. And do the same thing on the other side. The reason why is because you need to know where the center of this paper is when it's time to fold. But I fold it back and you'll still be able to see part of the X. Okay. So that's for the petals. I'm going to set that to the side. Let's see. I need to do sepals, but I don't need something this big because the sepals are not a very big part of the plant. So I am going to cut this in half. Don't want it that big. I can save the rest of this for a different project. So now I'm going to fold this into fourths. Fold it in half and fold it in half again. It's smaller, but it is a smaller part of the flower. When I open it, I'm going to take that darker color, make that X on both sides, and fold it back up. That's to the side. So we have petals, sepals. We need something for the leaf. I'm going to use this big green piece of paper, well, green colored piece of paper, and going to fold it in half, fold it in half again. Basically, almost all of the papers need to be folded into the fourths except for the pistil, because the pistil is not going to be folded at all. I make this X on both sides. And now I need something for the stamens. They're in the middle of the plant. I think I'll use some of this for the stamens. Yes, I think I will. That should be cool. I cut the red part in half and in half again. I don't need a really big piece of paper for those stamens. They're little tiny parts of the plant, not as big as the petal. So I fold this in half, fold in half again. I'm not sure this crayon's going to work, so I'm going to use the marker. X on that side and X on that side. Okay. And I fold it up. Now here comes the fun part. What I like to do, and I'm going to start with the petals. What I like to do is draw the shape of it. Let me use a crayon. I want to draw the shape of the flower petal, and I'm going to start near where this mark is. This mark is here for a reason. This is the middle of the flower. With the model that I created, all of the parts, the petals and the sepals and the leaves are all joined together. You can see on the bottom, the leaves are all joined together in the center. So we're going to be doing that. So when I draw my flower, I'm going to start with a little line there on the side and a little line there on the other side, because that's where I'll begin cutting and that's where I'll end cutting. Then I need to draw the flower, and I want my petals to be really big because I want my flower to be really big. So I'm going to do a bumpy line that goes all the way around the edge of this paper. I'm making this as big as I can. And now it's connected back to that line. So bring that closer so you can see it's gone all the way around. And I can still see that mark from the X that's folded from the middle. I am not going to cut on that. When I start cutting right there at that little mark I made. And yes, I'm leaving the paper folded because I want all of my petals to be the same size. And as I cut around, you'll end up with 4 petals that are exactly the same, and they'll all be joined in the middle, and you will still see that X in the middle of your paper when you open it up. So let's open it carefully. They're floppy and flappy, and voila, they're all joined together. They're still together right there. So I'm going to put those to the side. Let's do the leaf. The leaf pretty much the same way. So there's that mark in the middle. I'll make that darker so you can see it. Make a little mark on this side and a little mark on this edge on this side, and then I'm going to draw the shape of a leaf, a big one. Cut it out. There we go. Open it carefully. And there's the leaf. So I have the leaf. I have the petals. Now let's do the sepals. And the sepals look like a tiny leaf. So there's my mark. That's for the corners. The middle of the paper in that corner there. Make a little mark here, a little mark there, and I do the same thing. It's just like a smaller leaf. And cut it out. sepals done. And last but not least, the stamens. I think I'm going to draw on the lighter side so I can see better. So I'm going to flip this inside out. Wait, let me make this mark darker. This X, so I can see it better. Okay. So there's the line from the center, so I know where the center is. I want my sepals to look like fingers or a chicken foot. So I add one toe, and with a wavy line I'm just curving up and curving down, and there's my chicken foot. And I cut it out. A little chicken foot. Now this is the smallest piece of paper yet, so cutting it out takes a bit of concentration. And notice that I'm just turning the paper, not even moving the scissors. I'm turning the paper as I go around. I'm moving the paper, and I'm just opening and shutting the scissors to make that cut. Voila. So I open it carefully, and there it is. Awesome. I need one more part, the pistil. The part that's going to stick up, protrude out of the middle. I need something for the pistil. And I think I'll just use that other piece of construction paper I had. This is how I did it. I took a rectangular piece of paper that wasn't too tall, wasn't too big, and I placed my pencil at the short end, and I wrapped the end of the paper around the pencil as tight as I could, tucked it under, and rolled it about halfway, and then I grabbed some glue. And when I say put tiny amounts of glue, I mean it, because it can take forever for this to dry if you use gobs of glue. Alright? And then when you get closer to the end, add a few more just tiny bits of glue. It will dry quickly that way, just tiny bits. And then I put it on there and I hold it, and I spin the pencil around a little bit, wiggle it, make sure it's not stuck to the pencil, and it's not. And when I'm done, slide the pencil out, and voila, you have a tube. Looks like a paper straw. I'm going to set this to the side, let this dry, let the glue set for a while I start assembling the rest of the flower. I'll start with the petals and the stamens. There we go. I'm going to start with just a tiny dot of glue right there in the middle of that X. And the X that we put there for cutting purposes also helps in gluing purposes. Awesome. Then I flip it over to the other side, and I'm going to add the stamens. Tiny dot of glue there, and add the stamens right there, and tiny dot of glue again. Honestly, when I say tiny, I mean really small. Don't need a lot of glue. Look at that. You don't need a lot of glue. Then I add the leaves. And I think I'm going to make the leaves go in a different direction, like so. And the green side will be facing up. Right now it's facing down, but it will be facing up. You could also color both sides of the paper for these, but I decided not to because the leaves are going to be laying flat on the table when you're done. Okay, so I'm just giving a little pressure. Now I gently flip the whole thing over, And here we go. This has had a chance to sit and dry. I take my scissors and I stick one end inside and I snip and turn the tube. Snip and turn the tube. Snip and turn. I turn it around to the other end, do the exact same thing. Snip and turn. Make tiny slits at both ends. And now that I'm done with that, I stick my finger in there, open it up, and do the same thing to the other end. Stick your finger in there, open it up, and then you spread out. Now one end of this is going to get glued to the center of the flower, and you'll have to use, once again, tiny dots of glue. And turn it upside down right there in the middle of that X, and you're covering up that X that you made, and nobody can really see it now. It's disguised, it's covered up. And hold this for a few seconds and let this glue dry, glue set. Wow, it's coming together. And the very last thing you'll do is add a little bit of glue on the edge, the very edge of the petal, and attach it to the other one. Hold it for a few seconds. A little pressure. Count to 10 really fast. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Do the same thing as you go around. A tiny bit of glue. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And turn. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And turn. And lastly, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And there is a beautiful spring flower with those parts that you might need to know for your science exams. That you have a pistil, and then these are the stamens, the petals. Underneath you have the little sepals, and then we also added leaves. There's also stems involved, but for this it's hard to show that. A beautiful flower, three-dimensional flower. I think that's a creative way to do a flower, guys. So remember, art makes you smart. That'll help you remember something you might need to know for a science class. It also will make you really feel really happy making something like this. It's just so beautiful. You could extend this and maybe make a pollinator that might want to touch down right here, like a bee or a butterfly, and attach it there. There's so many possibilities. So come back and create cool stuff with me again. And remember, art makes you smart.